Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Why don't you do this? Why don't you just do a quick introduction to the audience about who you are, who you play for, all that type of stuff. I want to talk a little bit about NBA, and then I know you've got some really cool things going on. We're going to talk about that.
Oh,
We've
wow.
got about 3 minutes here till the break, so let's just keep it a little bit tight, and then we'll hit you on the back end of it.
Basketball-wise, I played basketball, graduated from Southwest High School, and played from one of the probably top 5 high school coaches in Don Richardson at Southwest High School in Macon, Georgia. Then I went to Georgia Tech. I'm very fortunate there at Georgia Tech to play for Bobby Crimmins. Had a chance to participate in the 1990 Final Four, the 1990 ACC Championship, and also the 1993 ACC Championship. Then from there, I played basketball, professional basketball, my rookie year. I went undrafted, so I selected tryout camp with the Detroit Pistons, and Grant Hill and I were rookie together, so of course we have rookie duties to do, and there's some things that we can't talk about as a rookie.
Nice.
Then enjoyed some time in the CBA in Grand Rapids, and then back to the NBA with the Atlanta Hawks, and then back to the Vancouver Grizzlies, which are now the Memphis Grizzlies. Then I played basketball after that in Poland, and I was right outside of Krakow in Poland. I've played in Estonia, played in Portugal. I've played in Turkey for Galatasaray Ülker. Basketball for me has been great. I've got a chance to really see the world because of the game of basketball.
I was looking at some of these power rankings, and it looks like the Heat have improved, but they're sort of middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack. Obviously, Wade's gone, but Jimmy Butler is in, and this dude from Marquette, I mean, he looks really strong. 6'8", 232, almost getting close to that 20 points per game there. Solid player.
Mm-hmm.
Ivano, what's your take on this NBA season? Where do you think the Heat can be? Who do you like? How do you look at it?
Well, the NBA, what was the first and foremost, I think. I do think NBA-wise, you have to think about defense first. I think one of the greatest quotes that Michael Jordan had early on in his career was, offense wins games and defense wins championships. And if you take a look at that just from a historical standpoint, a lot of the great teams from the Boston Celtics had great shot blockers, has great defensive players. And then if you look at someone like the Lakers and you coming through the Laker era, I mean, Kareem was shot blocker, Cooper
Oh my gosh.
playing defense.
Yep.
And so when you look at that and you build a team from that way, that's where success and your foundation is going to be. Because a lot of time when you're playing great defense, I could not name one team that would not appreciate an extra 12 to 16 points just from steals or, stopping someone on defense or a blocked shot for an easy layup. And so, when that happens right there, you look at what the Bulls did. The Bulls had the Pippen and Jordan and the Kerr and Tony Kukoc, but you had Dennis Rodman, Luke Longley, Bill Wennington, and the other guys playing defense. And so when you have that type of system there going, you're going to have a successful team. Shooting is not always going to be there. So when you're missing 5-10 wide open shots and maybe your star player is not in the rhythm, that's where you have to play defense to get layups. So you got to make up the points somewhere, and that's the only place you can make up the points. So I do think regarding Miami, if they can solidify and get a mindset of having strong defense, I don't see why Miami finishes outside the top 3 in the East.
Wow. And do you think that they have potential in the playoffs?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I always looked at it. Lenny Wilkins has always preached this about, you take each possession, one possession at a time, be it defense or offense. And so when you look at it on the floor, this is where the coaches and assistant coaches and even to a degree players on the bench watching, you need to know what's going on with the game at all times. From what I've seen the last several years, I think a lot of players are not engaged into the game, honestly. When you're looking at the bench and whatever they're doing, whatever it may be, this could be me assuming, and so it's not actual factual, but just from body language and seeing what's going on, my whole thought is not about a check, but about winning a championship. And so,
Yes.
unfortunately, I wasn't able to win a championship on the NBA level, but I did enjoy the times, all the teams I played for, and it really, really was about defense. And I think Miami has to get a defensive scheme down. You know, when I played with Atlanta, team wasn't worried about going to the basket. Dikembe Mutombo was always blocking shots and
Yes.
wagging his finger. When I went into the game to substitute from him, we ran more of a trap and switch defense because that unit was a little bit faster. And so it just depends, really. I mean, this is something where I do firmly believe every single game from high school to college and even the NBA is won every 4 minutes. If you can beat your opponent every 4 minutes of every quarter, that means you've won the game that quarter. I mean, as far as points goes, defense, hustle, I think people don't look at the games in the smaller chunks. You start looking at the game in smaller chunks of what can be done, you'll be shocked and amazed at the outcome of what you will have.
Well, what you're telling me, Ivano, if I'm hearing it correctly, because I was a really good athlete in my sports. Unfortunately, they didn't pay like basketball, baseball, and football here in America. But I'm hearing you, and I've worked with a lot of athletes, including professional athletes. What I'm hearing is a level of focus and a focus on fundamentals. And do you feel like that has changed in the current NBA?
Oh, definitely that has, without no question. Fundamentals. I think. Let me see. I think Tim Duncan solidified it. They call him Mr. Big Fundamentals, and you
Wow,
look
yes.
at the outstanding career he's had. So when you get down to basic fundamentals of basketball in itself, you save yourself. You don't expend too much energy. You're really saving yourself only because what you want to happen is you want to have a very, very strong fourth quarter. And I think that's where Phil Jackson was very good with Michael Jordan, even though Michael Jordan rejected it. Late third quarter, maybe 3 minutes ago, he took him out, then they reinserted him really to after about 2 minutes fourth quarter. Well, in real time, 3 minutes of basketball is really like 9 minutes of rest, plus TV commercial, plus foul shots. You know, so you look at Michael Jordan, you give him 10, 15-minute rest in between the third and fourth quarter, and that's why he's one of the greatest fourth quarter players that's ever played the game.
Incredible.
And so it's about a strategy. So if you look at the strategy and go into your strategy and you get the players to buy into it, then that's the big difference. Because just considering today here in America, you have kids that have talent. Like I have a 6-year-old. He's 4'8", 70 pounds. So he's big for a 6-year-old. Yeah. And so, you know, teaching him the fundamentals in basketball, teaching him the fundamentals in the T-ball he played, teaching him the fundamentals even in golf. It's very basic, subtle stuff that, you know, right now they're starting to learn. And I'm not forcing him to play any particular sport. He just told me he wants to play tennis. I'm like, yep, we're going to do it. You want to play? We'll go out there and just play and swing the racket. But I do feel from a basketball perspective that you get kids with talent, and then coaches don't spend the time developing their fundamentals because a lot of kids have talent. They just throw the ball out there.
It's interesting. I want to share a quick story here, and I want to get into something else that you're doing. You know, and I may not talk about this in the last hour, but my father's birthday just passed, and unfortunately, you know, I lost my father when I was 24, and he was 52, and I can remember, and it happens, right? And we'll get to that, and so I remember going to Nolan, because he loved baseball and we loved Texas baseball, and we were living out in California. Went to an Oakland athletics game, and Nolan Ryan was coming through. And I think somewhere buried in one of these boxes, I've got the ticket from Nolan Ryan's 6th no-hitter. And I remember being in the stands. It's incredible, just incredible. I remember being in the stands with my father. And I was trying, when I was training athletes, I was trying to work with Nolan Ryan. Wasn't able to do it at the end of his career. Wasn't able to do it. I made the calls there and stuff like that. And I was with a company. I mean, that's a longer story. I'll table that. But when you talk about fundamentals, when you talk about basics, the leg drive, the mechanics, everything to be able to maintain that career for that long, Nolan Ryan was just unbelievable. But I remember that being such a special time with my father. And talking to you, and you were gracious enough to come to America's Venture Capital, the kickoff conference that we had here. And full disclosure to the audience here, I mean, Ivano's got a startup that he's working on, and my wife and I probably are going to get involved in it. But, you know, being now that you're retired, and we all deal with issues and unfortunately at some point some tragedies and things in our lives, and you have a story that you want to share. I want to know about what's going on with you. I want to know what's going on with here, because health and family are the most important things. And a lot of athletes, especially maybe in football or basketball, where you've got these big players, they don't always take care of themselves after their career is done. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing and why it's so important.
Wow. Well, John, thank you, and I do appreciate you and Selma and the advice and direction you've given me when I was there in D.C. at the conference, American Capital Venture Conference. For me, I'm working on a medical device to bring about more awareness for high blood pressure, heart rate, and also fat content, because November of 2018, my brother died. November 17th.
God, we're so sorry.
Thank you. His birthday was November the 10th, and the following weekend he died from high blood pressure, and he didn't know it. And for me, the whole thing is, you know, people just don't go to the doctor, John. Be whatever reason it is, social.
And isn't that something that has very few symptoms of Ivano? I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't want to even pretend that I know anything, you know. But tell us a little bit about that and why you know what I mean? Like, talk about that.
Yeah, so, and high blood pressure is the number one silent killer in the world.
Wow.
And because it leads to other things. So high blood pressure just in itself, people are not checking or monitoring it. And so I'm working on something now, and there's a lot of Fitbit and other devices out there that's going to be very specific.
Of course.
And so part of what I'm doing is bringing awareness to health issues, and want to be able to have this device, have an app, be able to have all the information that you would need at your fingertips. And so if you wake up one morning and decide, you know what, I'm just going to put my health fitness device on, and I'm going to be able to monitor everything. I want to have a code built in there that alarms or wake people up to say, hey, listen, your high blood pressure is getting kind of right here. Your BPI for fat content is right here. And so what will happen is it'll bring more awareness.
What has been the reaction of former players? I know you're talking with them. We got about 2 minutes, and some other folks that you've been speaking with of this issue.
Everyone I have spoke to has said, I'm on board. I mean, I've had one gentleman that I met there at conference. He's asking me, how much is this device going to cost? I need one. And so I've talked to my family and everything, and my family has literally said, hey, yeah, listen, we want one. A friend of mine, he's from Nigeria. He's been here in the States for about 40 years. Since he was 17, and so he's talked to the ministers there, and the ministers there said we'll order 10,000 a month if he can get this thing going. And so he I had a chance before I came to DC to spend time at the Retired Players Conference and speaking to Grant Hill and Steve Smith and the guys there, Spencer Haywood. You know, there's guys there that like, what? You're gonna do what? Never heard of this, never did this. We hear about the Fitbit watch and everything. So as I'm speaking to them, everybody's on board for it because everybody specifically needs good health and everything. So health is a very, very, very big issue. And so it's what you have. I mean, you take away your health, you can't do nothing. Nothing at all.
No. Not at all. Very quickly here, as we got to wrap up and go to break.
Okay.
If people want to reach out to you, I know you're on LinkedIn. What's the best way to kind of follow what you're doing?
I would say LinkedIn for sure. My website is up under construction, not underground, but under
Fair
construction.
Enough.
And so I would say definitely within the next 2 weeks, I'm going to have some great content for you there. And hopefully in the near future, I'm going to say next 3 months, 4 months, going through the design beta testing stage, we can get things up and running for everyone because I want you to also help me to be healthy. You know, because as a basketball player, we do go through ailments, you know, knees, back, surgeries, this, that, and the other. You know, we can use, I've read where we use, you know, all the
Ivano, thank you so much. We got to jump here. You have been amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you for what you're doing out there. You're listening to the John D. Villarreal radio show here on 1210 AM Miami, The Man, where you are the man.